coming along here. Takes a moment to go from Zoom to YouTube. It takes me a moment to see that it's live. So we do what we call in the biz vamping, waiting to get confirmation that people can hear us and see us and all of those exciting things. Grateful that you are here today for our next session during the Tucson Festival of Books 2021. Oh, look, see, I can even hear myself. So now that I know that I'm live over there on YouTube, we'll give this just a moment so we can hit right up at noon and begin. This is, we have two more, this one and one more event during the virtual Tucson Festival of Books this year. Can't tell you how grateful we are as an organization. I'm Sean Buvala from the Small Tooth Dog Publishing Group. I'm the publisher of at this fine organization, supported by a team of great people who do wonderful things for us. Michelle, who does art, also the owner. Kelsey, who does fulfillment and background support and moderations and basically whatever needs to be done. Kieran, who does a lot of editing and helping us think through books. Terrific work. So thankful to everyone on our team for being here, and thankful to the Tucson Festival of Books team, in particular the exhibit team who put together this opportunity for those of us who were supposed to be part of the live event last year. And of course, that didn't happen, right? That's the way the world went. For us to be able to do this virtual exhibit hall this year, and they invited us to, and any exhibitor, to do live streams as well throughout the event. So we've been doing that. You are in the next one from us, noon here in Arizona, on Sunday, March 7th for this live event. Of course, this will be up past that, and you can always be watching this. So if you're watching live, I'm glad you are here. If you are watching later, I'm also glad that you are here as well. This session is going to be called Don't Write Your Book First, which is a common mistake of people who want to be an author. So what does that look like? Well, let's review where we've been with a number of people. And all of this stuff is really, if you're a new author, this is a solo event with me. This is just you and me talking for a while. If you are a new author and you're thinking, how do I get started with this? I'm going to really invite you to dig back through this whole weekend's lives with us and watch these lives. It'll take you, they're about an hour a piece, 45 minutes to an hour a piece. It'll take you a while to go through all this, but there's so much content in these panels, interviews, discussions that I think whether you're an illustrator or you're a potential author for a nonfiction book, or a children's book or a children's nonfiction book. There's so much here. So yesterday we went through an interview with C.S. Fritz, Casey Fritz, as an illustrator. We also had an interview, which somehow is not on this page, with Harriet Cole, who's the author of 15 Pounds of Muscle and Bounce. Then we had a wonderful panel with three people on how the oral storytelling tradition can enhance your writing. We had a Kidlit panel. We had a workshop last night about publishing books. Earlier today, we had a just so informative panel on what did you learn on your publishing journey. That turned out to be just terrific. Right now, you're going to listen to me talk to you a little bit about what we as a publisher look for. So writing your book is not the first thing I want you to do. An outline maybe, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And then this afternoon, we'll just have some fun with what's going to be coming soon from the Small Tooth Dog Publishing Group as well. So this afternoon, we're going to talk just about these four things. What do I look for as a publisher? What do I look for in the author when someone comes to us and we get into a serious discussion about their project? If you have thoughts or questions or just want to say hello, put that in the YouTube live box next to us. If you're watching live on March 7th during the Tucson Festival of Books, put your information inside there, and either Kelsey or I will answer your questions. So what do we look for in the author when it comes to getting a book out? Now, that first part of this may surprise you, because many people think when they bring a book that it's about the book they've written. And in the old days, maybe it was. Maybe it was just about, I've written this book, so you have to vet the book. You take the book and you You look at the book. The author doesn't matter. I'll tell you today, in modern publishing, modern independent publishing in particular, whether it's our organization or anybody else's, we are vetting not only the book that you are writing or in the process of writing. We're not only vetting that and looking at that and saying, is all the things we need to look for, but we're also vetting you as the author or the author illustrator. We're vetting you. We're looking at, what do you bring to the table? Because the old days of the author being able to go off and just disappear and send their book out to the world, and they're going to go disappear in their walled garden, those days are really gone. Hello, Phyllis, welcome. Those days are gone. You as an author are as important in this process as your book is. So we start to look at, what are you doing? How have you done these 4 things we're about to talk about? We look at you. Because if you're coming into an independent publishing situation, which is where most publishing is happening these days, and you're coming into a relationship with someone who wants, either you want help self-publishing, or you want to do a very traditional publishing model, or you want to do a hybrid model, any of those things, who you are counts. Who you are matters. And so there's 4 things that we're looking for, and I have those up on the screen right now for you. And I'm going to start at the bottom, actually, on this. What are we as a publisher looking for in an author? And that very first one at the bottom there is coachable. Are you, as an author, coachable? Are you somebody that we want to work with? Are you somebody that's ready to learn? Are you somebody that brings open-mindedness to the table? Are you somebody who has a thick skin and can handle criticism and comment? Are you coachable? As an independent publisher, you'll talk to me a lot. We're not turning you over to, a boiler room of salespeople and book designers. As an independent publisher, you'll talk to me. You'll talk to the couple of team members that are here. Unlike a vanity publishing piece where you might just be one of 100 projects they're doing this week, if we've taken you on as an author, as an illustrator, if we've taken you on that way, we need to be able to work with you. And initially, when I start to get really interested in a book, I'll spend a good 30, 45 minutes on the phone talking with the author. And what am I looking for? I'm vetting whether or not you can take criticism. I'm vetting whether or not you have the right philosophy to align with us. We have a mission statement as an organization. Are you in line with that mission statement? We've turned people down who weren't. Does that mean they were bad people? No, it means they weren't aligned with our mission statement. They weren't coachable to be able to come into alignment with the mission statement that we have, for example. If you want to see our mission statement, go to smalltoothdog.com and look up the contact and the information pages. So are you coachable? You have to be coachable. Many times people will bring a book to us that they think is fully formed, which is why we say don't write your book first. They'll bring a book to us that they think is fully and completely formed and want to hand it to us. And then when I start saying yes, but, or yes, this or that, or one of the hardest things for us as a publisher is an author will, especially of a children's book, will have already chosen who they think should be the illustrator. And they've already promised somebody, usually it's a friend, they've already promised someone that that person's going to be the illustrator for a book. The choice of an illustrator stays with the publisher. The publisher makes those choices, and you may or may not know who that person is. And it's very difficult for you to have promised your friend, your mother, your sister, your brother, the kid you grew up in high school with, whatever. You may have promised them, well, you're going to illustrate my book, and then we find out that it's not. If you're coachable, you're going to be able to deal with that, and you're going to be able to understand why we do or do not choose that particular artist for this particular project. Being coachable is very important. If you come to us with all the answers, if you come to us with you can be an expertise in your book, that's fine. But if you come to us with all the answers about publishing and you're not willing to work and be a part of a team, we're not going to be a good match. So before you write the book, work through all the stuff about being coachable as well. Platform. We're going to move up the list here. Platform. What does platform mean? When you come to me with a book or a book idea or some outlines of books and you're ready to really do that, And if I look at that concept and I think, oh, that concept could be viable because you've done your research, which is at the top of the list, right? When you come to us, I'm going to look at what is your reach as an author. How many people are on your social media? How many people are on your email list? How many people are you directly connected with? Perhaps you're the leader of a 100,000 person organization. How are you present to the world? Because the idea of being an author who's in hiding in the garden, those days are gone, right? So I need to know what your platform is. And I will tell you that most publishers now, if the book is good, but your platform is bad, your book will not get published. So what does that mean? So before you write the book, even if right now you're thinking to yourself, man, I have this really cool idea about a book. Right now, you should be doing your research, focusing on your avatar, and building your platform. Right now, you should be connected to social media. Do you have to do all of them? No, you do not. But you need to be on the social media where your avatar, we're going to come to that, where your avatar is living, where your avatar is working, where your research tells you that you're going to find that. So for example, if you're doing writing a book and your focus is on teachers, for example, elementary school teachers, where are you going to find those people? Your platform needs to consist of a good email list that you've started to build. Yes, you can learn to do that. Yes, we can teach you to do that. But a good email list, you need to be present on Instagram and probably Pinterest. That's a great place to find teachers who are interested in the work that you will do, who might be people to buy your book. So Instagram and Pinterest, probably Facebook as well. If you're doing business, if you're writing a business book, you need to be present on LinkedIn. You probably need to be present on Twitter as well, and then sometimes Facebook. So your platform is based on who it is your avatar is. We'll come to that in a moment. Platform's really important. If you come to me with a pretty good book idea, and I think that we can help you edit it, you're coachable, we get it right, and you've got 200,000 people on your platform, you've got 200,000 people in all your social medias, there's a good chance you could get a book deal on them. Now, can you do it if you don't? Yes. But if you're a brand new author and you followed my advice, which is don't finish your whole book, don't fall in love with that, and you start to work with us, I'll say, look, your platform isn't big enough. Your book idea is good. So let's start getting you some training in being able to produce your book and produce your platform. Platform's important. You cannot dismiss social media. By the way, it doesn't matter whether you like social media or not. It has no bearing on how you personally feel about it. People will say to me, yes, but not every author has to have a successful, look at, and they'll tell me some big name author. They'll say that person isn't on social media. That's because that person is selling 400,000 books a year. If you're a political figure and you have lots of people who love you and people who hate you for that matter, and you're a political figure, and there's 1 million people who will buy your book tomorrow, you can get anything published you want. But for the average author, building your platform is critical. Being present on social media and doing things intentionally on social media to build your platform, to build your following, to engage with a potential audience. That's important. And we have to talk about platform before we can publish your book. By the way, I'm going to give you some links at the end of this presentation today to kind of help you get started with learning all of this stuff. The next two are kind of connected, which is your avatar choice and research. When you have a great idea for a book, first off, I want to support you in the fact that writing for writing's sake is really good. You should write for writing's sake. That's okay. I'm going to let Marc Severson in the room here. And then Marc will come in and we'll probably talk to Marc a little bit in a bit. So Marc, I'm just going to have you mute for right now as we come into the conversation. So research and avatar. So if you're bringing me a book and you may have fallen in love with the book, you may think that the book's a great idea. You may have lived with this topic forever. You may have loved it as a kid, but you need to do the research. Hi, Marc. We're going to have you just hang out for a few minutes, okay? We're going to have you do the research that says, is there an audience for your book? Your great book on Venus flytraps might be really interesting to you, but the question is there a market for that? Your great children's book may speak to something that's important to you, but the question is there a market for that? So doing research, learning what people want, learning what people respond to, we can help you learn to do all that. But being able to do research to say, this is what the audience is like, here's what the searches are like, doing the research. And once you do the research on the book that you're writing, whether it's a kid's book or a nonfiction book, even in fiction, maybe Mark will have something to say about researching fiction. We'll see. All of that leads you to an avatar choice, to knowing who it is that you're writing a book to, because you don't write a book to everybody. You write a book through the training we give you. We write a book to one person. So Daddy Teller, which is my first book, when I first wrote Daddy Teller, I was spreading it too wide. I was writing it to parents, which is too wide of an audience because parents are very different. The parents of a 4-year-old have big differences in what they need versus the parents of say a 14-year-old. Why is my screen doing weird things? Oh, there we go. Now I can see everybody. So doing the research and knowing who that avatar person is. So I had to really sit down and say, who is the avatar of the Daddy Teller book? Who am I speaking to? And so my avatar became very, very specific. Not when I was done with the book, but as I was writing the book. And I saw the avatar in front of me. And if you've attended one of the others, you may have seen this. But I knew that my avatar's name was Dan. I knew that he was 32 years old. Now, is this a real person? No, but it is the compilation of the people that I was going to write to. He's Dan. He's 32 years old. He works a blue collar job, so he's working out in the real world, in the fields, doing what he's got to do, mechanic, whatever he happens to be. The guy that comes home from work's got a shower after work because he's sweaty and been working all day. And so he comes home from work. He's been there all day. He's got 2 kids, one in the oven, one's on the way. And when he gets to that point and he's tired at the end of the day, his significant other, who loves them so much, says to them, Dan, you have to spend more time with your kids. And in Dan's mind, who loves his children, Dan's mind is, when in the hell am I supposed to do that? And so Daddy Teller is an answer to that, need. How is Dan, who's working his tail off to already support his family, how is he supposed to do more with his kids? And so Daddy Teller was a book that I wrote specifically to Dan. Now, Dan's not mentioned in the book, but as I wrote everything, I knew that Dan was the avatar I was writing to. Do other people benefit from this book? Yes. We've put thousands of these books in the hands of families, single moms, singles dads, traditional families, mixed families, step families, everybody. So a lot of people have benefited from it. But when I was writing it to Dan, because I knew what would happen is that significant other would say to them, you need to spend more time with your kids. By the way, I found a book for you, right? And you should read this book, Dan. And so this is a very easy to read book, very thin, very easy to read. It's got activities in it. The print doesn't look like a book that's designed as a textbook. It's not really small, sciencey print, but it's very easy to read. And so we put our work out to that. So our research was, who is Dan? What is the need for parents and families to communicate with their children, to use storytelling to build literacy, to build family bonds, to help children with their education? And all of that research, all of that avatar work went into putting Daddy Teller together. And so we do that in various books. We say, what's the need that's out there? When we did this book, which is Marc Severson, I think is going to pop in here. We did Mark's book. I knew who this audience was writing to. And so as we edited it, as Mark wrote it, Mark has been telling this story to children for, let's just say, a decade at least, right? Probably several decades. He'll tell us about that in a moment. He knew the type of child he was telling to. He knew what his audience was. And so he wrote that book that way. And then we took it, because Mark is coachable, and we further refined down how that audience looks, feels, what's the words of the book going to look like. We designed our art to appeal to the right audience. All of those things came together from research and avatar choice. So before you write your book, we want you to think about, are you coachable? Are you ready to learn? Even if you're an expert in your field, you're probably not an expert in publishing. It's very hard to be an expert in publishing because it changes all the time. Do you have a platform? How are you going to sell books? But that's the publisher's job. It's your job too. There's only so much that a publisher can do. The energy around the book is going to come from you. So Are you coachable? Are you developing a platform, or do you have one? Have you done your research about why this book is important? Who's going to read it? Who's it going to be sold to? And have you developed the avatar, that one person that you're writing to? We've had that experience with a number of different books, with 15 Pounds of Muscle and Bounce, which is Harriet Cole's book. She wrote this book very specifically to a 10-year-old boy. That's who she wrote it to. That was her avatar, because that 10-year-old boy was her grandson. And so she wanted to make a book that that kid would love to read, and has the kind of stuff in there that would make a 10-year-old boy or girl go, ooh. That's why we wrote that book. So that's what we have to say about don't write your book first. Be prepared, be ready, get in there. If you've got questions or anything like that, put them in the chat box. Hey, Mr. Mark, why don't you unmute yourself?
All right, I'm unmuted.
There you are. Hey, man. Good. Welcome back. You did books that you did horror-based westerns.
Yeah.
Horror-based fantasy. Yeah. I can't even, it's so far out of what I publish. So the work that you did with another publisher, I think you self-published those works. When you were putting together those books, did you do any research? Where did the knowledge of how to write that stuff come from?
A couple different places. One, I was aiming at a very specific, obviously a specific population. I refer to the books as Tony Hillerman meets H.P. Lovecraft.
Okay.
And so I want people who are interested in the West, but also interested in classic horror fantasy. So it's like I say, it's a small genre, but it was what I was interested in. And also, I did an enormous amount of research in the background of the stories to make sure that everything I put down on paper, I could say, this is true. I mean, this stuff, the background is true. The story is mine, but the stuff that goes around it, it's a real, it could be a real place, it could be a real time, it could be real things.
Right.
So I as an archaeologist, I'd done historical archaeology, so I was familiar with the time period, but I did a lot more than that. I'll tell you one thing that was invaluable for me in writing it was a copy of the 1896 Sears catalog, because if I wanted to have them have something in their hand or use something or go to something, I would check the catalog to see if it was available, if that really existed at that time.
Wow.
And I did a lot of this. I mean, almost everything that's in my book, I checked on. I made a mistake on one. I'm not telling you what it is, but it was a mistake of only 2 years, so I'm not too far off.
Right. Right.
But even so, that it was critical that I checked into that. Then I also contacted other people who were interested in the horror fantasy genre, and talked to them about the book a lot in terms of what I was writing and how I was writing it, and had them read stuff for me and give me feedback on it, and that was invaluable too. I mean, that was just critical. The novel I wrote on prehistoric Arizona is based on sites that I actually dug, so I had pretty strong grounding in that. But I also was familiar with a number of people who have written novels of prehistoric times. I read everyone I could get a hold of to see what they had written, how they had written, how they talked about it. And then I also talked with, this was important to me, I talked with friends of mine who are indigenous people, Native Americans, about things I was putting in there and how I was using it and how I was going to explain things and what things I was going to make up that weren't real,
Right.
But that no one would really know that I was making them up, because unless they, are extremely familiar with that area. And fortunately, I had a number of friends who I was able to talk to about it, and then they gave me good feedback on that.
Right.
That was critical too, I think.
Right. The nature of fantasy books is that you make up some stuff.
Exactly.
Right. It does
You're making up the story, but at the same time, you want the story to be believable. You want it to be something that people could read and go, oh yeah, okay, I can see where this could happen. They get involved in it.
One of the things that's interesting for us, let me see if I can find it in this book. It's not just authors that have to do their research, but it's also illustrators. And there it is. So we put a book together called The Fox and the Crow, Art and Stories inspired by Aesop, which is at stealingthecheese.com or your local bookstore. And so I researched and put together Aesop tales, but then the book needed to be illustrated. And so Michelle Buvala, an illustrator, also my wife, but Michelle, illustrator, we put together about eagles and the birds for some reason wanted to monarch, right? And so there was an eagle in it and there was a wren in it. The amount of research she did going into making sure that this was the right kind of eagle. And Michelle, I don't know if you're listening right now, but if you have a comment stick it in the comment section. I'd love to know it. The amount of research she did to get the birds right, and so like you're saying, you dove deep into native cultures and things like that and spoke to people who knew what they were talking about. The same thing with illustrators. Illustrators have to do a lot of work to be sure that what they're presenting is correct. It's not just draw a bird, which is sometimes when an author comes to me with the illustrator they've already chosen, the illustrator hasn't done their research to produce the book yet. Things like 15 pounds of muscle and bounce. When Casey was doing the illustrating, we had to stop and really do deep research on, there's a knight in here. One of the pictures he drew in here, there's a knight in there. And so we had to stop and go, all right, so the time period of the book, what did armor look like? What did that look like in the area of the book, in the location on the planet of the book, in the timeline of the book, to do that research? It wasn't just draw a knight. And so, for example, in this book of Norse fairy tales, you will not find a single illustration of someone with a hat with horns on their head, because that doesn't exist. So someone who hasn't done, Mark, you're laughing, you know what I'm talking about. As an archaeologist, as a scientist, this, that what we think is what it is, isn't what research tells us. So not once in this book is there somebody in here with a Viking hat on, with what media says a Viking hat is. So that's really fascinating. Can you talk about the research we did on Don't Throw Me in the Troya Patch, particularly the research about wood rats? Can you explore that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. That was extensive, and well, because you were involved in a lot of it. But
right.
But
you led it, though. You led the research as the author, though.
I understand. We actually contacted probably the foremost authority on this animal that I was writing about, and I had been telling this story for a long time, and my knowledge of it was based upon what I had been told long ago as an archaeologist. And when I saw the nest, I said, "What is that?" And someone identified it as a wood rat. Yes. And so I just went with wood rat. That was my concept of what I was talking about, and I had a clear idea of what it looked like and everything. But it also turned out that after we talked to him, that I was totally wrong. It's not a wood rat. The only wood rats that exist are east of the Mississippi.
Yep.
And this is something that's commonly called a wood rat. And if you go to the Autumn people, they will call it a wood rat, which is I'm with them on that. So I still refer to it as wood rat. And he said, it's kind of anecdotal information. It's not pure science, but this is what a lot of people know it as. So that's not going to hurt anything.
Well, we put it in the book. We put the research.
Exactly.
We put the research in the book. You wrote a piece about the research. We spoke to an expert on pack rats, Tom Van Devender, director of the biodiversity programs at greatergood.org. Amazing. Good and that stuff. Affected how we call. That affected the name of the character in the book and the whole bit.
Yeah. Oh, it took a lot of thought and effort to figure out how we were going to present it then. because of what we now knew by doing the research. I hadn't done the research when I was telling the story. I had to do the research when we had a book.
Right.
So.
And in that, you're illustrating for me something that's really, and we'll kind of wrap on this note. You're illustrating for me something that I said in this workshop, and I'm going to pop back to that screen. So you came to us with an idea, and you and I had known each other for a long time. So, you know, sometimes it is who you know. You and I knew each other. I knew your stories. You knew my work. So, but when you came to me as a scientist for, you know, decades, as a school instructor for decades, as a storyteller for decades, you came to me with your story.
Right.
And when I said, we have to fix your story,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say to you, we have to fix your story, you're wrong. I said, we have to fix it. You didn't go, but no, I'm a scientist with decades. I have a master's degree. How dare you? Right? I didn't get any of that from you. I got, oh, let's go do the research.
What do I have to do?
Yeah, what do I have to do? And you were, even with all the brains in your head about this stuff, you still were coachable. You were like, okay, you know, you had published books. This wasn't your first go around.
Mm-hmm.
You did the research. You knew who you're writing to. You have a platform because every person in the Tucson Unified School District apparently loves you. And so, and you were
fears
coachable.
Me.
Right, one or the other. So I just want to thank you for popping in on this, because I think your last piece in particular really illustrates the things that we said. To get to a book here, we weren't in such a hurry to just, oh my God, finish this book. But we did the research that needed to be done so that we knew when we were playing with ideas. You know, for example, Tom said to us, the Papa pack rat doesn't stick around.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in this one, you know, in this book, you know, he talks about the wood rat talks about, you know, his roly-poly little babies at home. Well, that's not how pack rats live. We knew that, and we played with it anyway, that he had, you know, 10 little roly-poly babies at home. So we made that choice, the intentional choice. Good.
And it's important to
go ahead.
mention that from the time that you said, I'd like to publish this story, to the time that I held a book in my hand, I think it was a good 2 years.
Yeah.
In time to do that.
Yeah.
And yet it seemed reasonable because we were always working on something, refining something and getting something ready and to produce it, to get it done the way it needed to be done.
Yep. Michelle answered us about the wren and the eagle. She says, I had to make sure the wren and the eagle were the right size to each other and that they were both found in the same area of the world. So the characters that she's creating, oh, just draw a bird, right? Doesn't work that way. She worked on specific characters, specific types of birds, species of birds, so that they matched where they were and would they have been together in the first place. So even if, you know, a 3-year-old reads these stories or a 4-year-old reads these stories, although the book's aimed earlier, they may not go, oh, look at the species of eagle, mother. But the research is important that it's been done that way. So that's terrific. Thank you, Michelle, for popping that in there. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up this little piece of our presentation today. There's some things we'd like to tell you about. One is, if you are new to publishing and maybe have rung some bells in your head and you're thinking about getting a book out, we invite you to go to authortip.com and get our checklist, which is, are you ready for publishing? Put your information in your email address in there. That'll put you on our list, and we'll start sending you some stuff about once a week to help you learn about publishing as well. Plus, we'll send you the checklist, and there's a short little training video in there as well. So that is, yes, Michelle, it did. That book turned out great, and that picture turned out great. And it didn't look like what I, as the author, thought it would look like. It's actually better because of how detailed it is and how I know now that picture is right. Terrific. So that's authortip.com. We invite you to go there and look at that. If you have had a book out for a while and you're trying to figure out how to use this passion capital you have in the world, that you want to learn as an author, speaker, healer, and teacher, how to make an impact, how to find financial stability, how to take the deeper approach, we invite you to go to speaker100.com, get in on that information. There's like a 22-minute masterclass in there that teaches you what I call the 4 secrets, the 4 secrets to developing what we call the communicator's cash flow. So being able to do that, that's at Speaker 100. We invite you to do that. And then just for fun, we invite you to join us in the drawing we're going to have for these t-shirts that we have produced. Michelle produces art for our events, and this is a hand-cut lino cut shirt, hand printed. This is not a machine. There's not like 7,000 of these in our warehouse. There's about 10 in the workroom. And so we invite you to enter the drawing for one of those. There's different colors and different necks, and when you get your code, you can choose what's still in stock. And that's at smalltoothdog.com/drawing, smalltoothdog.com/drawing. And that information is going there in the chat box. Kelsey's putting it in there. If you're watching this after March 7th, clearly the drawing will have been done. But if you're watching this weekend live, we're going to make that drawing tonight about 7 o'clock Arizona time. So that's 9 p.m. Eastern. So go to there, smalltoothdog.com/drawing. You got to be 18 plus to enter it. That's the way it is in the world. And you have to have a U.S. mailing address in order to get the prize. So smalltoothdog.com/drawing. Marc, thanks for coming in. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
Good to have you there. Good. All right, folks, I'm Sean Buvala. Thanks for being with us. Marc, don't disappear yet, because I'll just have a quick conversation with you. But the rest of you, thank you very much. We hope to see you at 3 p.m. Arizona time for just a really fun, quick talk about what's coming. And Marc will be back for that too, to talk about some of the projects that we have coming. So we'll see you in a bit. We'll see you at 3 o'clock Arizona time. That's 2 p.m. Los Angeles and 5 p.m. Eastern.